Hey, Planeswalkers, hope you're doing well and staying safe. Welcome, as always, to this week's episode of Friday Night Meta, my friends, where we are breaking down Magic the Gathering Arena, all things around Kamigwa Neon Dynasty. A lot happening here, and excited to walk you through that here today. So appreciate you tuning in. Flip me a like, smash the subscribe. We got a lot of stuff going on the channel. And with that, you can check out today's timestamps where I break down Standard, I break down Alchemy, I break down Historic, I break down Historic Brawl, and then we also talk about key events as well. So appreciate your support as always. Thank you so much, Planeswalkers. We got a ton to get through today. If you got a question or comment throughout today's video, please let me know down below, or feel free to come join us in the Discord server. That's also in the details, along with other great ways to stay connected. So let's get going here. So today, in terms of Standard best of one, we're going to break down the aggregate first. In this case here today, we do have mono white still continuing to dominate. Naya Runes still being up there. Selesnya Enchantments is starting to do a little bit better. And then we got Naya Runes and we have Naya Humans. So lots of different variations. Esper Control starting to do work. Orzhov Control, Mono Black Control, and then Dimmer Control being played, but not having a great win rate. So when we look at what's happening here, you can see, again, Mono White still staying towards the top. We see this Naya Runes popping in there, doing really well. We see the Selesnya Enchantments in terms of popularity falling over, coming back down. Again, then we can kind of see this win rate over time. As well, really Mono Whites and Naya Humans holding very well. Selesnya Enchantments is starting to do a little bit better relative to what it's done in the past. So that's the more broad scene. Let's get in the competitive space here. We begin to look at this as Platinum. So here again, still the same, Mono White aggro, Naya Humans. Esper Control though popping up again, popularity really being on Mono White aggro, Naya Runes at 25% there. We can see the cuts and those things as well. We do see Izzet Mill cracking in the more competitive space. And then as we look at Diamond, we now have Naya Humans doing better than Mono White aggro. And the rest here, you do have Azorius Control popping in as well. And then last but not least, when we look at Mythic, it's all Mono White aggro. We do have a Boros aggro in there as well. And then a Selesnya Enchantments in there too. So that is Standard best of one right now. Let's get out of that and go look at best of three. In terms of best of three, Mono White aggro is also still dominating here. Then we have Naya Runes, Orzhov Control, Selesnya Ramp, Boros aggro, Esper Control, Rakdos Sacrifice, and Azorius Control. So you can see all these decks here again. Orzhov Control being heavily played along with Naya Runes, and then Mono White really taking up about 30-40% of the meta there. And then we can see how this stuff's been playing out. We saw that Mono White continue to go up, Naya Runes doing very well, and then can see those trends, and then Mono White aggro still just holding on really well in best of three there. So let's go ahead and look at the more competitive space. We only see Boros aggro kind of moving around. Everything else is still intact. Again, we see that. Let's skip ahead to Mythic. When we look at Mythic, Naya Runes is the main played deck, at least from what we're seeing here. And again, we're about halfway through the season, so we're starting to see, again, a lot more competitive players in that space. So let's flip back to best of one. Let's take a look at Alchemy and see what's happening here. At Alchemy, we got Mono White aggro, Selesnya Enchantments, Naya Runes, Gruul Werewolves, Azorius Control, Orzhov Tokens, Mono Black Control, Rakdos Sacrifice. Almost 20% on Naya Runes. Rakdos Sacrifice doing well. Selesnya Enchantments. Let's go ahead and take a look here. You can see that Naya Runes really heavily played. And then we can start to see some of these win rates. Mono White aggro popping back up like we saw. We saw Selesnya Enchantments doing well. Naya Runes slowly coming down a little bit in terms of what's happening there in that space. Let's look at the more competitive scene. So we get to Platinum again. Here we go with Mono White aggro, Selesnya Enchantments, Gruul Werewolves, Naya Runes falling off a little bit, even though it's still the #1 played deck here. Again, falling off pretty hard. A lot of the other stuff not really coming up, but players just moving off that. And then Mono White aggro still doing really well. And then Selesnya Enchantments starting to creep back in there. And we can see that. So let's go ahead to that Mythic space. Nothing in Mythic. A lot of players still focused on Standard versus that Alchemy. Let's pop over to best of three. We see some stuff here. We got Naya Runes, Gruul Werewolves, and Rakdos Sacrifice being the three decks. Naya Runes most played. Rakdos Sacrifice and Gruul Werewolves there. You can see those stats. So backward to best of one, let's take a look at historic and see what's happening here. Mono red aggro Squirrel Twin, Azorus Auras, Rakdos Arcanus, Mono green elves, Azorus Control, Izzet Phoenix, and Selesnya Enchantress. We have mono red aggro being the top played as well. So boom, boom, that's always nice. In terms of when we look at top popularity and win rates, Selesnya Squirrel Twin doing the same thing, Azorus Control doing the same thing. Not every day that we see that. So that's pretty unique. And then again, you can see the rest of the stuff here. Mono red aggro really, really running hot and heavy in terms of popularity. And then just recently reclaiming that top spot here in the last couple days, where Squirrel Twin's been dominating along with Azorus Auras doing well, but we starting to see some of those dips in the broader space there. Again, at aggregate, when we drill into the more competitive scene, we got Platinum, we got Mono Red Aggro, Selesnya Squirrel Twin, Rakdos Arcanus, Azorus Auras, Selesnya Enchantress not doing well, when Izzet Phoenix not doing well. And then you can see the percent played here really being dominated by these three decks, Mono Red Aggro, Azorus Control, and then we can see a lot of how that's being played. Let's go ahead into the Mythic space. Mythic, we got Mono Red Aggro at 15% of the meta. All right, so that's historic best of one. Let's flip over to best of three. Azorus Auras, huge win percent there at 66%, heavily favored. Way ahead of Azorus Control, Gruul Aggro, 5-color Niv, Rakdos Sacrifice, Izzet Phoenix, Azorus Affinity, Rakdos Arcanus. We see Azorus Control and Izzet Phoenix, Rakdos Sacrifice, Rakdos Arcanus, Azorus Auras not necessarily being that most heavily played. We can see how these things are progressing over time in terms of win rates and popularity. And wow, look at that. Azorus Auras really, really taken off here in the last kind of week, which is pretty impressive. So let's go ahead and get into the more competitive space. Again, Platinum, we see Azorus Auras, Mono Red creeping up there. Azorus Control, Izzet Phoenix, Rakdos Arcanus, Azorus Auras again not being super heavily played, same with Mono Red, and we can see how everything else is looking and how it's trending huge. We'll pop over to Mythic and see if there's anything there. Again, too low of data. Let's flip now into historic Brawl. So we've covered almost everything. Last but not least, historic Brawl. We got Nickel, Bolas, God, Pharaoh. We got the first sliver. Winata, Yorok, Moldratha, Synthus, Golos, and Kyodai, Soul of Kamigawa. And we can see a lot of things moving around here, particularly that deck in terms of popularity as of recently. Now, not surprised with Kamigawa. And then you can see the win rates. Interestingly enough, Winata's really kind of fallen off here in terms of win rate, but have gotten a little bit better here again in a pop towards the end. So, my friends and fellow Planeswalkers, that is what we have for today's episode. Fast and furious for you today. I went and looked, not a ton of events going on. There are some awesome stuff going on this weekend that I'm looking forward to reporting on for you next week with the championship, Kamigawa Championship. So congrats and hats off to those of you that are participating. I know many of you. So keep up the good work and best of luck. With that said, Planeswalkers, appreciate you tuning in. We took on Standard. We took on Alchemy, historic Brawl for you across best of one and best of three today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. A lot of big changes, actually, shifting kind of around the meta and some of the steady eddies, as always, as things kind of slowly fill out. About halfway through the March season, and looking forward to moving forward with you and what comes out of the Kamigawa Championship Series here. So appreciate you tuning in. Flip me a like, smash the subscribe. Would love to see you around again. As always, appreciate that support. Great ways to do that here on the channel. Thank you to the patrons and YouTube members so much. As always, I truly appreciate that additional support. And other great ways to stay connected here on the channel, because we got a ton of stuff that we do, and we will be getting back into a lot more here soon, hopefully. So with that, Planeswalkers, you stay safe, you take care. Until next time, my fellow Planeswalkers, Mythras out.